of 7.
On this best of 7 series between...
Of a best of 7 series.
Welcome to the Best of 7 podcast.
Welcome to the Best of 7 podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Plant from SENS. In episode number 9, we are joined here by Ottawa Senators forward Scott Sabourin. Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, guys.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Before we get into the interview, today, May 12th, is the one-year anniversary on the Kawhi Leonard shot. Scott, just run through it. Where were you when that legendary shot went down?
Yeah, I was actually with a buddy of mine who was my roommate at the time in Sandy Hill, and I think we were posted up with a nice cold refreshment in our hands and kind of, losing it as it went in. So that's pretty cool, and it was awesome to, rally behind a Canadian team and watch them win it all.
It's great to see. I think Noah can agree with this. The special thing about like the Blue Jays and the Raptors, for example, is you got the whole country behind your back. And I think it creates a unique opportunity for athletes to experience something incredibly unique for the fan support anyway. So, yeah, that's an interesting point for athletes that come in to Canada to play for the Raptors and the Blue Jays. You got the whole country behind your back, and we saw that with the Blue Jays, and we got that with the Raptors. So, like you said, it was magical for sure. So let's get into the first question. So during this whole quarantine, a lot of people have had funny ways of keeping in shape. So why don't you tell the viewers and everyone really listening how you've kept yourself in shape during all this?
Yeah, nothing too crazy on this end. I'd say, my oddest method of training would be, a kayak ride or two when I'm getting bored of the typical, training days. But I do have some decent workout gear here, and we got plenty of miles of back road out there. And so, I've been running, and I've been on, a five days a week training program. So, it's going well. Obviously, it's hard without the ice and in that sense. But it seems to be that if we start, we'll have, plenty of time to kind of get back in shape through training camp, So, it's been good.
Perfect.
Awesome.
No?
Yeah. So obviously you've had a lot of time to yourself, right? Have there been any Netflix shows or Amazon Prime, anything like that you've been binge watching?
Yeah. My fiance and I aren't, she's mostly not into too many serious shows. So we've watched Waco was a pretty good one. I'm not sure, how accurate it was, but it was quite an entertaining show. And then other than that, I think we've kind of been pushing through How I Met Your Mother, which is, a little older, but we had both never seen it. So it's a nice, easy comedy that we can sit down and kind of, have a couple good laughs too.
I certainly recommend watching Ozark. A lot of people, if you're into, did you ever watch Breaking Bad?
I did, yeah. Breaking Bad was awesome. I'm actually a couple seasons into Ozark. I think I'm their third now.
You're on season 3?
Yeah. I haven't watched the third season yet, but I've seen the first 2. Yeah.
You're a few episodes ahead of me, but it's phenomenal. It's been a lifesaver really for me during this whole quarantine. It's been giving me something to watch, and if you're listening and watching this, definitely check out Ozark. But moving forward now, you were from Orleans, right? You're from Orleans?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So growing up from Orleans, I'd assume you were an Ottawa Senators fan. So were you? And if you were, who was your favorite player growing up?
I was. We would make it to, a few games a season just because it's a little further being from the Orleans side of town. But I liked watching, Mike Fisher, Alfie, obviously. You had Chris Phillips, Radek Bonk, all those old guys, Lexi Yashin. So, Vermette. There was a whole bunch of guys that were fun to watch. And then obviously, Chris Neil did a great job at his role and, brought the energy and his physical presence. And so it's nice to have gotten to know a few of them, seeing them around the rink as, a couple of them are still helping out and working for the team. So it's been cool that it's all kind of come full circle.
I thought it was a great moment when Chris Neil played in the playoffs a couple years ago. Yeah. And it was like he's one of the more veteran guys on the team, but he's still making a big impact in the second round of the playoffs in 2017. That was probably one of my favorite moments from Chris Neil for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's, it's a role that, you know, can sometimes develop over time. He'll have more space out there, and you know, things along that line. So yeah, no, he did a good job all the way to the end.
Yeah, I'm sure he was a big fan, a big favorite in the locker room. Obviously, you want to get all the knowledge you can from one of the older guys in the room.
For sure.
But next, moving forward here, obviously, this year was your first year on the Ottawa Senators. Can you walk us through a bit of your process of getting the PTO with the Ottawa Senators? Did your agent really reach out to Pierre Dorion, or did Pierre reach out to you, or how did that go down?
Yeah, my agent, you know, was looking around, and he saw that Ottawa would be a good opportunity for me. So, you know, all we had was the tryout, but you know, it's better than nothing, and so we took it. And obviously, you know, it worked out. Luckily, DJ Smith, you know, was a little familiar with my game and coached me in Oshawa back in the day. So, you know, I'm sure that helped my case a little bit. But, you know, I just went into it and said, you know, hey, I got nothing to lose. So I put forward a pretty good training camp. And then, you know, things kind of just sort of snowballed. And now we're here, a season in.
Well, what I will say is during your PTO and seeing the season and the training camp, you definitely, you know, stood out. And what was most interesting was that you're an Ottawa native, right? So I remember Noah and I were at the home opener, and the reception you got when your name was announced was really nice, I thought. You got one of the loudest ovations from all the players. So it just shows how the city rallies around their local players and their local talent. So firstly, congratulations for getting the NHL contract. But speaking of the National Hockey League contract, did Pierre Dorion give you a call when the decision was made to give you the National Hockey League contract? How did that happen? How did you find out?
Yeah, well, my agent had, you know, relayed the message. And then I went to the office and had a talk with Pierre and DJ, and we inked the deal from there. And that was that.
We will say that one of the most, I guess, interesting moments of the preseason was your little incident, I guess we can call it, with Auston Matthews at the beginning. Was there any thoughts shared with your bench, maybe any laughs there?
Yeah, I mean, it had blown up quite a bit. I thought it was pretty funny. You know, it's a minor thing, but you know, when it's in the Toronto market, then you know it's huge all of a sudden. And so, you know, Twitter took a liking to it, and it blew up quite a bit. So I had a good laugh about it. He had a good laugh about it, I'm sure. And you know, at the end of the day, it might have helped me a little bit by kind of, you know, getting my name out there. So I guess I'll have to thank him.
Well, it certainly helped your story, because in my opinion, what Matthews did was disrespectful, because you're an NHL player and he shouldn't treat you like anything else. However, what was funny was in the first game of the Senators season, we played against those Toronto Maple Leafs and against Auston Matthews, and you, sir, scored your first National Hockey League goal against those Maple Leafs and against Auston Matthews. What did it feel like?
Yeah, that was a very surreal moment. You know, I'd waited a long time to get into the league, and then to you know, lucky enough, score on my first game was you know, was super cool. And so and then I had, you know, my family and my fiance's family up in the stands, so for them to be there to experience it with me was very, very cool.
So you had mentioned that you had a previous relationship with DJ Smith before you came to the Senators. You played with him in Oshawa. Did playing for him like help your transition to the NHL make it any easier?
I think so. I mean, it's, you know, obviously it's still hard work, and you still got to show up, and you still got to, you know, put your best foot forward. But he had seen what I could bring to the table in the past. And, you know, I knew he had confidence in me back then, and I knew he had confidence in me again, you know, bringing me onto the team. And so it was definitely, you know, a touch easier, but then again, it's still the NHL. It's still a very competitive league, and so you got to bring your game every day.
You've had a very storied career, right? And it's one of the most phenomenal stories, and which is why a lot of fans have rallied around you and have supported you. Throughout your career, have you ever thought that you'll never make it to the National Hockey League?
I would say that, you know, hope was a little, you know, dim for a little bit. But I would show up every day, and I would show up every year, and I would continue to try and get better and, you know, look for my next opportunity. And, you know, this came around and luckily it worked out this time. But, you know, the gap between the American League and the NHL, it's so tight that sometimes you just need something to go your way. And so I felt I finally got that bounce. But yeah, through the 6 or 7 years, it was definitely, you know, tough to stay positive about it and to keep, you know, showing up every day and putting the work in.
For sure.
Yeah, it was. It's good to look back at your story and read up on it, and then obviously seeing you score your first goal in your first game. That was something that Sens fans love to see out of you. So you've obviously gone on a few road trips with the team. Are there any teammates that are maybe your preferred roommate, or maybe the one that you're most your most common roommate that you have on road trips?
Yeah. So luckily, once you get out of the American League, when you're off your entry level, you no longer have a roommate. So pretty much just the rookies and the guys on their first 2-3 years have roommates. So we're lucky we get a nice big king size in a room to ourselves and get to enjoy it. But yeah.
Compared to the AHL or the other minor leagues, did you have to have a roommate in the AHL as well, or was it like you said, just the rookies together and the veterans got their own rooms? How was it like in the minor leagues, for example?
Yeah. The minor leagues, you have a roommate. So my roommate was actually a local Ottawa kid, Mike McMurtry, played at Northeastern, and that's who I lived with last summer. So funny enough, we grew up playing together for the Gloucester Rangers from, you know, all the way through pretty much, whether it was A or AA, or, you know, we kind of always found our way on each other's team one year or another. But so it was actually really cool to kind of rekindle, and we're really good buddies now because of that. So it was awesome.
Well, speaking of buddies, the next question is going to bring a lot of Sens fans some laughs. Through the COVID-19, the Senators content team has really had to get creative, and we've seen a lot of funny things like on Twitch. They put stuff on Twitter. And the common theme with Sens players is they like to poke fun jabs at Colin White. Now, I'm wondering, can you give us a little bit behind the curtains of why Colin White gets joked about a lot, or just tell us where, how, and why that started?
Yeah, I'm not really sure the backstory behind it. You know, I came in this year just trying to kind of feel everything out and get to know it. But, you know, Whitey's a funny kid. He's always open to a joke or two, and he's got a bit of a goofy side to him. So I think guys like trying to, you know, pry at that, and he just kind of makes for an easy target sometimes. But, you know, he's a great sport about it, and he's a good kid, and he's a good teammate as well.
So, yeah. When you first got into the league, like you were saying, you were trying to just feel everything out. Was there a teammate in the first couple of weeks that you that made that transition easy, that welcomed you with open arms? Like, is there one that stands out in your mind, a teammate that took you in with open arms?
I'd say having a connection to a past team was with Cody Goluboff. So he was in Stockton just before me, and so he knew a lot of my old teammates, and so that made it easy to kind of take off there and, you know, open some doors and get to know some people. So yeah, I would say he kind of took me under his wing and introduced me to a few of the guys, and yeah, I was thankful for that.
Being an NHL player comes with positives like that king size bed and negatives like playing against guys like Brad Marchand. Now, as a Sens fan, as a hockey fan, I'm wondering a few things. Who's the toughest to play against? I'll let you answer that first, but after that, who gets under your skin the most? And is Brad Marchand truly the rat or mischievous player that he appears to be on TV? Is he really like that on the ice? Just, I'll reiterate the other questions if you forget them, but
yeah. As for Brad Marchand, the one time we played them was when I gotten hurt, so I didn't really get to see much from then. And then the next time, I don't remember it having much of an impact. But he's good at his job. He's been good at it for a long time, and I think in these later years, he's been actually quieting down a little bit and kind of just focusing on putting the puck in the net, trying to make it easier on him. But you got to tip your cap to a guy like that. He's been at it so long. He's so passionate about it. He puts the puck in the net. He doesn't have to do any of the extra stuff, but he does because he's so passionate about it, and he likes to just have that edge, right? And so you got to respect a player like that, especially at that size.
Yeah, for sure. Just, I think it was Killorn or something a couple years ago in the playoffs. He licked his face. What would you do if a player on an opposing team licked your face? What would you do, Scott?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it would depend who it was. You'd almost just have to laugh it off because it's just so silly, right? It's no harm to you. I mean, unless he's sick or something, but whatever. I guess in the coronavirus age, you wouldn't want anyone doing that, but
probably not.
I don't know. It would depend who it was and how willing they were. And, there might be a couple left hands coming their way.
Now we're talking a lot about Brad Marchand. He's a great player. Skilled, like you said, he puts the puck in the net, and of course he has that other type of game he plays. Now you have to play against some of the top. You're playing against the top players in the world in hockey. Who's the toughest to play against? Maybe a defenseman, forward, or whatever.
I'd say that I had a couple good battles with Malkin this year, and I was very impressed with his compete level and how big and powerful he is, and again how he can put the puck in the net. But he definitely brings it every game. I mean, skating out there with Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, Connor McDavid, all those guys. It's pretty cool to see. So their skills next level, and you just try not to be on the receiving end of a highlight reel there.
Yeah, for sure not.
Yeah, it's funny because Malkin, he's obviously one of the top players in the NHL, but it's hard because he's one of the more underappreciated players because he's always playing with Sidney Crosby on his team, and it's hard to shine when you have one of the best players in the whole league on your same team. So, yeah, he's been a prominent figure in the NHL, and obviously he's a kind of a unique player, kind of like Ovechkin, where he has that big body as well, so he can have a physical game added alongside like a scoring touch, a talent in that area. So Malkin is definitely one of the better players in the NHL for sure.
It's funny that you mentioned that because we just talked about the Last Dance documentary. That episode's going to drop tonight, episode 8. And in that episode, we talked a lot, or in the other episode too, we talked a lot about how the fact that Scottie Pippen was underpaid and he was an elite player and he was overshadowed, of course. Well, not overshadowed, but Michael Jordan obviously got the brunt of the attention. So like you said with Malkin and Crosby there, it's the same example. It's funny how every league has that duo on one team, one dominant team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And, sometimes it can help not having all that spotlight and kind of getting to just focus on your game. But, in the Scottie Pippen case there, it went a little south with the paychecks and this and that. And so, but yeah.
So you've had a couple of big moments. Obviously, we've talked about your first NHL goal and the Auston Matthews incident, but you've also had a couple of fights in the NHL. It just comes with being in the league. Has there been one memorable fight that's stood out to you?
I mean, I had the couple preseason fights there, and then we had the one with Reeves in the regular season. So I would say, that's probably one of my bigger, badder opponents I've had to fight. And so, it was a handful, but I came out of it no worse for wear, and I think the guys appreciated it. So yeah, hopefully we could find ourselves in a few more of those situations here, moving forward.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, Reeves has been known as a prominent fighter in the league. He's taken a lot of other prominent fighters and made them look really bad. So it was good to see you hang in there, and especially as a rookie in the league, hanging in with one of the best fighters. Has there been a fight in the minors maybe that you remember? There might have been more in the minors than there were obviously in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a fair amount at this point, but there's been a lot of good ones. I'd say last year I had a pretty good one with Cody Bass. we got into it pretty good and, you know, exchanged some good punches, and it was a lot of fun for the crowd. So, you know, it's always fun to get in a good one where, you know, there's some length to it, and there's some emotion, and the fans get involved, and, you know, and if it can be a tipping point in a tight game, then that's always great too.
I kind of have a one more question about fights. Like how does like that boil up and develop into two guys dropping the gloves? Like, it's one thing if a couple pushes and shoves, but how does it sort of accumulate to a big fight like that?
Well, I'd say there's different ways. Sometimes it boils up over, you know, playing them for a few years or a few games, or, you know, you see them taking liberties at another teammate of yours, or sometimes it's just a tight game, or your team's down a couple and you're trying to get a spark. And so, you know, when it's your job, you got to get fired up for it, or else, you know, the outcome might not be great, you know, if you're on the receiving end of some good ones.
For sure. Before we get into my next question, I just wanted to ask, like when Noah brought up the Chris Neil moment in 2017 when he rocked Tanner Glass, brought the crowd to its feet, I was wondering, Chris Neil has the signature, he always goes like this with one leg up, pumps up the crowd. Have you ever had a moment like that? Because I could just imagine how exhilarating that could be.
Yeah, I've had a handful. You know, you got to be careful with the showboating and that, you know, there's still a respect to it, but, you know, when emotions get flaring and, you know, depending on the circumstance, yeah, there's been, a few times where the arms have come up and over the head, and, you know, it is a game for the fans at the end of the day. Right. And so, if you can get them involved and get them rallying behind you, then it's all the more fun.
Now, as an Orleans native, and we're Ottawa native, so I think we're all in the same boat here. Noah and I, growing up, used to love going to the ODR or just playing street hockey. So I'm wondering, as a kid growing up in a hockey city like Ottawa, how many times did you go to the ODR? Was it literally like you got home from school, did homework, and go to the ODR? What was it like for you?
Oh yeah, that's pretty much exactly it. So Barrington Park is my local rink in Orleans. It's right across the street from where I grew up. And I'd say, you know, once that rink, the ice was ready, I was out there maybe 3-4 hours a day after school into the night. And actually growing up and a little later, maybe, you know, into my teens, my dad ran the shack, and so we had the key for the shack, and so we were maintaining the ice at that point and taking care of it, and so I was there quite a bit.
Get some community hours too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm gonna ask you a couple of rapid fire questions. They're just like a this or that thing. Like so, the first one, we'll just go pineapple on pizza. What's your take?
I appreciate it, but it's I don't pick it.
Thank you. You see, I agree. 100%.
I used to be on that wave of not being a pineapple and pizza type of guy, but I gotta tell you, the more you eat it, the more it grows on you. I'm just giving you that advice.
Right. It's not bad, but then again, I'm not picky with any food, so you know.
I won't say it's my go-to. My go-to is pepperoni.
Right. Yeah, I like to keep it simple too. A good garlic dip, and you're on your way.
That's the best dip.
Oh, good.
God, knows what's up. There you go.
Yeah. All right, continuing with the food trend. For breakfast, you wake up. Are you having waffles or are you having pancakes?
Waffles, but I've mostly been on my protein shakes lately and oatmeal. So waffles are a nice treat. But yeah, I definitely prefer a waffle over a pancake.
And I can't argue with that, but Noah, it's funny. You guys agree on the pineapple.
Waffles all the way.
I'm a pancake guy. I'm a pancake.
Oh yeah. See the airiness in the waffle is just so nice, you know.
Exactly.
I agree. Like the best. I will say this about waffles. The best feeling is when you go to a hotel on a road trip, or you're going on a vacation, and you wake up and you make your own waffle. I won't lie. That is a great feeling. That is a great feeling.
It is. So obviously with The Last Dance, it's sort of come up again as a big debate. Who really is the GOAT in basketball? Obviously you got Michael Jordan, or is it LeBron James?
MJ. Every time.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I could see the argument, but maybe if LeBron won 2 more championships or something, then we can talk again. But something
it's up for debate. It's up for debate. I mean, LeBron's absolutely amazing as well, but I gotta give it to MJ with his track record.
For me, you got to give it to MJ, just because if you compare it to hockey, you can have a guy like Wayne Gretzky and Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby has been known for the past decade as the best NHL player in the league. But that being said, he didn't have 2 points per game like Wayne Gretzky has. It's sort of like you can be the best, but there's someone like there's that guy that's almost untouchable. And that, for me, that's Michael Jordan in basketball.
And while we're speaking of Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Last Dance documentary, did you watch The Last Dance? Have you seen some of The Last Dance?
I want to say maybe only 2 episodes in, so we kind of got sidetracked by some other things. But yeah, I'm going to have to get back around to it.
That's fine. But what's your first impression so far, episode or 2 in, about Michael Jordan?
Yeah, it was good. I can't say I really, knew MJ on a personal level. You've heard the stories and all that, but it was a long time ago right now, and so it's cool to kind of to learn about the whole dynamic of the team and how it was all going, and the relationship between the owner and the players, and I look forward to finishing it.
Yeah, We're about 8 episodes in, and it's certainly a great watch. You can just watch it all in one night. It's just a phenomenal documentary. It's great.
It's good to see the backstory of all of these events that you just see on TV. You see Michael Jordan going crazy on every game, which is great, but then you also get the backstory of Rodman and Pippen and Phil Jackson, and it's good to see how all those parts made that dynasty of a team. For sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the next one here, Xbox or PS4? What are you thinking?
I'm an Xbox guy. I've been playing a little bit of Warzone lately. Just kind of got into it, and so it's been fun.
Yeah, I've heard the new Warzone's good. Unfortunately for me, I play on PC, and it's like I know it's like 200 or some gigabytes. It's too much storage for me. I might have to get it at some point, but I'm definitely excited. But yeah, Brandon.
I'm a PS4 guy, and what I'll say is I'm not much of a gamer. But what I'll say is the game that you're playing, I've heard a lot of my friends are playing it, so I might buy it. I'm not really a shooting type of guy. I don't have COD. I have nothing. Literally, no one knows this. Don't make fun of me for this. The only games I have is NHL 20 and the NHL games, GTA. Maybe Fortnite. GTA. I think that's it.
Yeah. Like, well, good news is the Warzone game is free, so you won't even have to buy it. You can just download it for free, and you're off to the races.
Well, beautiful.
Yeah, if you're not into shooters, then it'll be a bit of a learning curve for you. But
hey, I got the time
because you didn't spend any money on it.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't spend any money. Worst case, I delete it. But during quarantine, we got all the time, right?
Right.
So,
good way to get socially, get on the mic with some friends and whatever.
Yeah, that's really when it's most fun. It's when you're really with your buddies and you don't really care what happens in the end of the game. You're just having a good time. That's
right
really when it's the best. So on the same topic of video games, we mentioned it a little bit, but there've been some NHL players who have started streaming on Twitch. Like I know Robert Thomas on the St. Louis Blues. He's streaming a bit. Have you been a big player of Fortnite? That seems to be a common one for NHL players.
Yeah, I haven't been. Again, growing up, in juniors and that, it was always Call of Duty for me. And then, this Fortnite stuff took off, and luckily Warzone came out with something, similar, the big 150 people war type thing. And so that kind of just pulled me that way. But Fortnite seems very fun, and, a ton of people have fun on it. I'm just not good enough at it, and so it would frustrate me, and I'd give up on it.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I'm not a big Fortnite guy. The third person view is what really kills me. I like the first person. That's just my personal opinion.
Right.
And for me, I've played it maybe twice, and I think it's pretty clear that I'm more of a GTA, NHL type of guy, maybe watching Netflix. I'm not much of a gamer, if that hasn't been apparent already.
Yeah.
No. I played
Get your
it
fix of being a bad boy on GTA, eh?
exactly.
Running the streets, yeah. There you go.
Just run like it's the purge. Right?
Yeah.
Now, a couple of last questions before we get to the fan questions. Firstly, you've had a very storied career, and we've went through this, and I want to go through it again because we hear a lot of, through these type of stories, these inspirational stories, there are a lot of fun moments or funny stories that come through your path to the National Hockey League. So, Scott, if you don't mind, if you wanted to share a couple of fun stories that you had in the minor leagues, and then of course with the Ottawa Senators and the NHL, if you would like.
I hadn't really thought about any, but over the 7 years, I mean, there's been a ton of fun stories. Probably nothing I can get into too much detail about right now, but every year you get to have your rookie party, and it kind of breaks the doors down, and kind of gets everyone to come together. And then, from that point on, you're usually a lot tighter knit of a group. So I'd say, 7 years of rookie parties, we've had some good times and some definitely some fun nights. But there's no real standout stories that come to me off the top of my head.
Well, you said you had a lot of fun times, and our producer Giordano Ladisa, who went to school with you, mentioned to us that you like beer. As a beer person myself, I'm wondering, Noah's not much of a beer person, but I am. I was wondering, what's your go-to drink?
Honestly, I'm a simple man when it comes to beer. I like a Corona and lime on a patio. Something nice and easy, keep it simple, and it even has one of the lowest gluten counts, I think. So it sits better with you. Yeah. Well,
that is the answer I was hoping for. It is always Rona season. Unfortunately, I'm not talking about coronavirus season. It's Corona season.
Right.
Now, final question before we get into the fan questions. This is in regards to your future in the NHL, your future with the Ottawa Senators. So, obviously, during this huge pause, we've seen some players re-signed. We've seen yourself, Halak the other day re-signed. So, Scott, I was wondering, have you and your agent restarted contract negotiations with the Ottawa Senators?
Yeah, we're not quite sure what the plan is yet. Hopefully, we'll have some more news, shortly. But for now, I'm kind of just taking it day by day, making sure I'm staying in shape. And I'm ready to go, if we're back around playing hockey soon. So kind of just trying to focus on the remainder of this season and the possibility of it happening. And then we will regather and go from there.
Well, we certainly hope that you come back to Ottawa because you brought a lot to the game, a lot of entertaining hits. Of course, that goal that you scored. And you know what? It's always nice to see Ottawa natives on the team doing well in the NHL. So hopefully you get that contract offer. If not here, I'm sure you'll get it somewhere else. The first question comes from Silver SENS writer and internal budget podcaster Brandon Mackey. He asked, what was it like returning to game action after your injury? Was there anxiety, nervousness, or were you just thrilled to be back?
I would say I was just thrilled to be back. The recovery took a long time, but it took a long time because I wanted to make sure I was at 100%. And so when I got back, I was at 100%. And, I tried making my presence known immediately. I tried getting in there physically and kind of, getting that out of my head, kind of just getting back into the game right away. And, I thought I did a pretty good job at that.
You did.
For sure. And obviously I think it's the better stance to obviously there's some situations where if you're in the dire situation in the playoffs and you're going to get eliminated otherwise, you might want to rush yourself back a little bit because you need to contribute for your team. But obviously making sure your health is first priority is obviously the smarter choice for me.
Yeah. And luckily for you, Scott, the Ottawa Senators weren't in contention for the Stanley Cup, but maybe next year if you return with all the prospects coming up, the future looks very bright for Ottawa.
Let's hope, right? Let's hope, yeah.
So the kids are all right, as they said, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So the second question here comes from Bert. If let's just say it's 3-on-3 overtime, you're on, and obviously you need 2 teammates with you. Pick anyone in the NHL. Who would you put on that line?
Well, good question. I think that McDavid guy is pretty good, and then he seems to click pretty well Draisaitl, so I'll just go stand in front of the net and kind of let them do their thing.
Hey, that's definitely the safe
Great
bet.
answer. I'd probably do the same thing, except for the fact that I'd be on the floor because I can barely skate.
Yeah.
We're more baseball type of guys. That's the sport.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Baseball's a lot of fun, too. I used to play softball in the summers. I haven't found a league this year, but we'll see.
Did you ever, coming from Orleans, there's a lot of rugby in high schools. I play rugby varsity in high school. Well, once we were able to. But I was wondering, just before I asked the next fan question, did you ever play rugby because you mentioned softball? Or any
I played lacrosse. I played soccer. I played basketball, and I actually wrestled for a bit. So I pretty much touched most sports. I'd say lacrosse and hockey kept with me the most. And then now, since turning pro, picked up the golf clubs. And so now, that's a hobby of mine on the side as well.
I heard
kind of goes hand in hand with the game.
Of course. I heard that they're opening the golf courses in the next week or two in Ontario. That must excite you.
Yeah, I sure hope so. I haven't quite heard when yet, but hopefully sooner rather than later.
That's the ultimate. I can't think of any other sport that has the most potential to social distance and open up soon than golf, because it's literally a big field. So.
Right, and you don't want to be within 10 feet of someone swinging a golf club anyways, or you get your head knocked off, so it seems plenty safe to me.
Hopefully sooner rather than later. Jack Freeman here has an interesting question. What is your favorite type of bear? Is it a polar bear, grizzly bear, black bear? What's your favorite type of bear?
My favorite type of bear? I would say, the grizzly, is a big fierce bear, but I've only ever seen a black bear, and so I'll go with black bear. We saw one on our drive home from California last year, and so that was pretty cool to see. So we'll go with black bear.
That's great
choice.
What was it? Was it a road trip? Like, what did you? Like, there. That's.
Right. So we drive back from California. We did for most years. We were in San Diego for 2. We were in Stockton and then in Ontario, California. So we took a road trip back every year. And last year we decided to head north up the coast and then across, BC and home. And so we saw a big bear kind of crossing the highway into the valley in BC. And it was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome because
we saw a whole bunch of wildlife on the way home. Actually,
what else did you see?
Man, you name it. I mean, a bunch of elk. We saw some moose. The fiance claims to see a cougar, so I'll take her word for it. But I didn't quite get a look on it, and that's quite a rare find. But cool. So she saw the cougar. Other than that, lynxes, you name it, eagles. Wow. Yeah. Well, it was like 50 hours of driving or something, so we had plenty of time to spot the wildlife.
I guess that makes sense, because if without the detail of the 50-hour drive or whatever, I would have thought that you drove through a zoo, because that is quite a large amount of animals to see on a road trip.
Yeah.
All right, you got the next one here from Neil Paliwal. Who would you be comparing yourself to? Obviously, you got the 3 other major sports in basketball, baseball, and football. Is there a player in any of those leagues that you really compare yourself to? Maybe how you play, your role on a team, anything like that?
Sorry, from another sport?
Yeah, who would you compare yourself to?
Yeah, okay. Well, I haven't quite lived up to this, but I think Fred VanVleet's path was pretty cool, and how much he got to do with the Raptors last year, being a bench player and then coming on and then succeeding and doing so well, and then re-signing. So that I think that's a pretty cool path to aspire to. I can't quite say it's a comparison, but definitely something to aspire to.
Well, I agree because I think we'll all agree hearing these type of stories of, like, for example, Martin St. Louis, he didn't get drafted as well, just like Fred VanVleet, and just seeing these players, how the perseverance they have to push through that negativity, get the contract, and perform well in the leagues, that is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I love stories like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun to watch.
For sure. The next question is from Ryan Kaufman. Now I'm wearing my Senators O. I got this, has my name on the back. Got it when I interviewed your goalie, Craig Anderson, a few years ago. Now we got a whole thing here of old Sens logo. So I'm wondering, Scott, as a longtime Sens fan, if you had to pick one jersey to bring back, because there's rumors of bringing back jerseys, which one would you, Scott Sabourin, which one would you bring back?
I think you gotta throw it back to the retro ones. The one right behind your left shoulder there would be the way to go. No, your other left. Or sorry, I'm reading it backwards for you. Yeah, I think that's your left shoulder, right?
Yeah,
right
it is.
Shoulder.
I was
okay,
thinking,
yeah.
Yeah.
I was flipping the mirror for you on the camera. Yeah, I would love to go back to those jerseys. I think they're a classic, and it would be cool to be in them.
It's unfortunate. I should have worn my white. I have a white jersey like this. I should have worn that if I knew that.
Yeah, that's okay.
There's a lot of ways you can go. You can have even maybe a modern spin on it. You can have like a red like background or black background, and you can get a different alternate or something. There's so much you can do, and I miss those 2D logos so much.
Yeah, they were cool, and it just kind of reminds you of some good old days with the Sens, and what we're looking to get back to. So it'd be cool.
Now, before we get to the final question from the fans, I just wanted to ask you one thing while we're on the topic of jerseys. Number 49, was that something special for you? How did you pick the number? Were you given it? How did that come up?
I showed up and it was in my stall, and so I tried making it my own from there. I've never been picky with numbers. I don't have any superstitious ties to any of them, so I like the look of it on the back of a jersey, and I like trying to make it my own, and that's about it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that happens. I honestly, you can run with it though. You can make your own story out of just getting the number when you walked into the locker room one day. I think there's a lot of good players in the NHL who have had just a random number that they didn't even think about, and the story goes from there sort of thing. So honestly,
yeah,
49 is a unique number, and that's even more opportunity for you to make 49 Scott Sabourin number maybe one day.
Very true. It could be the number 49 will be Scott Sabourin's number in the NHL, right?
There we go.
All right, so last question here. We got Ari Katchen. If the Ottawa Senators could trade for any one player, whether it's the best player in the league or the best defenseman or a role player or someone that you know or a goalie, whichever, one player, who would you trade for?
Again, I think you got to go back to Connor McDavid.
I'd love to see that.
He's just so dynamic, right? He does it all. He hasn't quite won yet, but I think he'll get there. I think building around him, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah,
he's a pretty good player. Pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll certainly say he's probably a little better than you and I, Noah. I don't think we can compete.
Yeah.
But,
you can throw me in there too. Don't worry.
Have you played against Connor?
I believe so.
What was that like, though?
My memory's running astray now. Or were we supposed to play them? Yeah, I think I was hurt when they went there. So I'm not sure I played against him in junior, yeah, but I'm not sure if I played against him this year in Edmonton. Yeah, he was with the Erie Otters as a 15-year-old, and I was a 20-year-old, and so I was an overager, and I thought to myself, I'll just go run this kid, whatever, and bang him up a little bit, and he won't want to do anything. And sure enough, I go to take a run at him. I don't even think I touched him all game, like physically even touched him type thing. So he's pretty good.
You can see his highlights from his junior days where he was just the best player in the whole CHL. Like things that you never even thought were possible. And that's what was so special about him. Obviously, a guaranteed first overall pick. And
no kidding.
You look back at that 2015 draft, it kind of puts a damper on the second overall pick, Jack Eichel, because he's also a phenomenal player. But it just happens that he had to be in the same year as the best talent to ever come out, basically, in the past decade. So, but yeah, Jack Eichel, obviously, also a great player.
No kidding, before we end this podcast, firstly, Scott, thank you so much for joining us. But Noah, did you want to tell the fans where they can follow us and listen to us?
Sure. So you guys can follow us on social media. We got Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, @SENS Talk Podcast. And as well, we're streaming everywhere. We got Apple Music, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Spotify at SENS Talk, at the Best of 7 Podcast. And as well, you were on YouTube at SENS Talk. You got to click that button down there. Click the red button, make it gray. Like the video, share them everywhere. And we really appreciate the support. We obviously appreciate Scott coming on here. We were extremely excited to record this one. So we're very thankful that you joined us, Scott.
Scott,
thanks for having me on, guys. That was a blast.
Why don't you tell the fans where they can follow you on social media?
Yeah, I think my tag is s.sab92, maybe on Instagram. And then from there, I think my Twitter might be linked. I don't know. I'm working on this social media stuff. It's hard to keep up with. So, type my name in and hopefully I pop up.
We'll tweet out the tag when we tweet this episode out. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen.
I appreciate that.
It was an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Good luck in the future. Hopefully you return to the Ottawa Senators next year. If not, good luck in your future in the National Hockey League. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone watching, listening to this, I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed doing it, because it's been a lot of fun. Scott, thank you so much.
Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. We'll catch you in episode number 10. This is Brandon Plant for the Best of 7 podcast, and we will see y'all next week.